Good evening, everybody, and welcome into the PA Power Hour. I am Jeff Upson, and I'm joined, as always, by Eric Knopsnyder. And Eric, big week for us here. We got some announcements coming through with True Power and 7 additional matches that we're going to talk about here tonight. And I know you got somewhere to be going here in a little bit. Because we have some sad news, right? It's not the first time we've had sad news this offseason surrounding a Pennsylvania wrestler. Eric, just tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing tonight.
Tonight is going to be a lantern release service in memory of Kai Burkett, Chestnut Ridge wrestler. He was a senior this year, 2-time state medalist, tragically lost his life last week in a car accident. It sounds like he was swerving to miss some debris in the road and, just kind of lost control. So really sad situation there. I know that it's been really difficult for the Chestnut Ridge community, but they really strong bond on that team, as you've seen in the past. They really fight for one another, and I know this has been difficult for them. But I've spoken with Aaron Burkett, who you remember was a state finalist, a couple-time place winner, wrestled for Lehigh, and his outlook on the whole thing's been amazing. And he's told me, that the wrestling community it's just across with guys that Kai wrestled, guys that Kai practiced with, everybody comes together, and that's there are no positives that come out of an accident like this, but those are the ones things that you can take away is how the wrestling community supports each other in times of trouble like this. And we had unfortunately a similar thing happen a couple of weeks ago with Louis Carbajal, a former Spring Ford wrestler who was a state medalist this past year, and he also lost his life after a car accident. So a couple tough weeks of in the wrestling world in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I first heard about Kai, it's just like, that the name is such a staple in Chestnut Ridge family, right? And Dom Deputy was always talking about Kai and always talking about just the family in general. And, that team specifically, it just seems like the community there, it is a small knit type of community. And it just seems, it hits that much harder. I don't know. Obviously you losing a young life is never easy, but it's definitely hit a lot of people there. And, it's funny you mentioned about Louis, when I was sending out the state medalist shirts, he was so pumped to get his, because he really just came onto his own his senior year. He had a good junior year, but he was never really, really never in contention to really be somebody you said would get it on the medal stand. And I remember he took a picture of himself wearing the PA Power medalist shirt and sent it to me on Instagram. It was just like, hey man, thanks for the shirt. Really looking forward to rocking this in college. And it's just like, from all accounts, and I didn't, really know Louis, but from all accounts, it's just, super stand-up guy, nice kid. Joe Youngblood talked a lot about him, how nice he was. So, I don't know, man. It's tough. It makes you fortunate, for things that are going on in your life, because you see how fragile life really is, Eric. And I hope tonight that I'm sure there's probably gonna be a good turnout tonight for that.
Yeah, I know. I saw a tweet earlier today. Yesterday was the memorial service for Kai, or the viewing, and then today was the funeral. And I know that the Chestnut Ridge Little Lions tweeted that they saw at least 7 schools represented there at the viewing yesterday. That wrestlers came out from all over, and fans, and just people who might normally be rivals with Chestnut Ridge and trying to knock them off during the season. But something like this happens, you realize that, hey, we're all in this together.
It's crazy how much of a community wrestling really is. I'm wearing the Keaton Strong shirt. This is when
yeah.
That was, I remember when you wrote about that, and all of a sudden it just blew up. And every school in that area, Myersdale, Chestnut Ridge, Berlin, all those schools made shirts for Keaton and to raise money. And So not only is the wrestling community strong in general, but I feel like in your area specifically, it's probably even stronger just because there are, small knit communities there.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to judge, what it's like in other areas, but yeah, definitely in this area, there the wrestling community is small. They're all double A schools, small roster sizes for the most part. But man, it is so powerful, and the people who are in it are so passionate about it, and you you know. Any no matter what newspaper it's in, no matter who wrote it, whatever, they're consuming it and just love their wrestling, and it's nice to see how they all come together for one another.
Well, Eric, we don't want to get obviously started on a sad note, and we just wanted to kind of pay our respects to Kai and the Chestnut Ridge family, and um, talk about those two incidents, and unfortunately this is an all too common occurrence. It seems like we can name multiple wrestlers in the past
Mhm.
5-10 years that have lost their life way too early, whether that's to illness or accident. So there is some optimism coming into this week. We had the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club announce, and I had been hearing rumors about a potential event that Cale Sanderson wanted to put on. Um, I didn't know it was going to be to the extent that they were going to start their own Rockfin channel and really
Yeah, how
try to.
awesome is
I mean,
that?
it's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's great for us. It's great for our. It's really great for our consumers, our customers, our fans that love PA Power Wrestling and all the things that we offer. But just more is now going to be there because it's not like, oh, it's Bo Nickel or it's Chenzo or Jason Nolf. This is the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, so I think you're going to see a ton of technique out of that. I think you're going to see a lot of things just around Penn State in general, and I think that's awesome for everybody involved. I think it's going to be great. It's just more content that our fans can consume, but specifically, and we won't go into too much detail about the event itself because we have to spend majority of our time tonight on our True Power matches, but the event is going to be live on Rockfin September 19th, and it features primarily Penn State wrestlers, Nittany Lion Wrestling Club guys with a variety of guys from all across the country. Some Michigan folks, Darian Cruz and some Lehigh guys. Jordan Wood is there as well. So it's kind of a nice mix of really good matches, though. You know,
Yeah, awesome matchups.
Dariner and Nichols, obviously the
Yeah.
the headliner, that's going to get a lot of people to tune into that. So that is just phenomenal news for everybody. I mean, wrestling in general is just dying for some action, and it's just a month before True Power. So I'm super excited about Eric. What were your thoughts when you heard that and you saw the matches?
Oh, it was phenomenal. I was kind of in the dark about it. So you're better in the loop. You got the ties there with Rockfin and kind of what's going on and with there and when I saw it, I was like, wow, these are some really awesome matchups, and really excited that it's on Rockfin. So anybody that has PA Power access, getting the rankings and all the stuff that we do, you can watch that on Rockfin. Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, obviously a major player in terms of the freestyle scene, and it's awesome to have them on Rockfin and matches like this, where, as you said, we've been starved for big time matches, and man, they're coming out with a pile of them on September 19th.
Yeah, it's a really healthy mix of some high level guys that still have some eligibility left, and some guys that are recently graduated from college programs. So it's really going to be an exciting event, I think. And we'll get you more details as we get them, and we will talk in depth about the event. I'm sure in the coming shows. We got to focus on True Power a little bit tonight. But before we get into the matchups, Eric, the PIAA, Governor Wolf, kind of, he kind of was like, all right, the whole Carlisle car show thing, I may have maybe kind of a mulligan on that. Uh, and Wolf's allowing 250 fans in outdoor sports. That's that's pretty big. What would you say, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a start. I still, for the life of me, don't understand why we say, okay, the football stadium at a 6A school is the same as the football stadium at a single A school. That you can, both of you can only have 250. I mean, 250 people at Beaver Stadium is not the same as 250 people at Clairton Stadium. It's completely different. So I'd like to see where we can say, hey, let's get a percentage, and figure this out. But the interesting thing is I've heard some ads who are kind of like, this really makes our job pretty difficult because it was a lot easier when we said no parents could come. Now we've got to figure out, okay, who gets these 250 spots? Because now you're doing the math. Okay, well, Team A has 52 players on its roster and Team B has 38, and then there are coaches and officials and video people and media and all this. And so we're going to have 78 tickets available, and who gets those, home or away, or senior parents, or does a starter get a ticket? So yeah, it could definitely be a headache, but it's great news for sports fans who will now hopefully be able to go watch their kid play football or soccer, and get to see them in action. And as obviously for us, a wrestling show, it's good news as we look forward to hopefully moving forward down the line, that we're going to be able to get a hold of COVID, and get fans in the stands for wrestling and have a wrestling season in general.
I thought, I mean, this was huge news, in my opinion, just coming from the Governor Wolf's office, because the PIAA, we knew what their stance was. We knew kind of where they were feeling in terms of allowing fans, because Bob Lombardi came out and basically said, yeah, we would like to have some sort of fans, whether it's full capacity, whatever it is, we would like to have it. So for Governor Wolf to come through and actually allow that is pretty big, in my opinion, and I think that's a good sign for wrestling. Whether that means fans or not, for wrestling, it's a good step in terms of getting guys back and girls back on the mat inside of a high school gym, and just being able to roll out the mats and actually have a competition. So I think this is a good step. Now, obviously, we know with with COVID, it's anything can happen. But I think it's a good move on their part, and I do not envy an AD, or, like you said, determining who gets tickets and who gets to come and watch. And especially in this day and age where the entitlement runs pretty high. It seems like there's going to be a lot of people who upset that they can't see their kid, or their grandma and grandpa, and it sucks. I get it, but at the end of the day, we got to focus on having the sports and at least having the parents be there, I would think.
Yeah, so I mean, overall, I think it's a positive. And then I also spoke with a college coach this week, and I asked him, I'm like, hey, what are you thinking? How does it look for a season? Are you optimistic? And he said, yeah, that he is actually really optimistic that we're going to be able to have a season. Obviously not starting until after January 1st, but it looks really positive, and that he sees. We've kind of talked about the negatives for wrestling. That obviously you're in close contact. It's could really easily spread. But he said, hey, look, you've only got a handful of competitors. It's not like football where you've got 22 guys out there on the field at the same time, and 50 to 75 that play in a game on different sides and all that, and said, these are small groups that we're working with. And we've talked before about how some of the colleges say, okay, Jeff, your partner is this guy for the next month, and that's the only guy you're training with, so that we're isolating that and not making that a situation where if one of you comes down with something, that you're going to spread it to everyone else. It's just the two of you. And so these are smart individuals, these college coaches. They're figuring out ways that, hey, let's try to minimize the risk and get everybody on the mat that we can.
And I think the one positive thing is wrestling has time to prepare, and they've had time to prepare.
Mm-hmm.
Folks started preparing for this inevitable situation back when NCAAs were canceled, right? I mean, the leaders in wrestling started planning ahead to say, okay, if we are to return to the mat, how are we going to do it? What's it going to look like? So the one good thing about that is because football, that they were basically having to start spring practices the next month, so they didn't really have much time to really prepare, and they kind of were, building the ship as they were going, kind of analogy. And really with wrestling, they've had a lot of time to prepare and to make changes and to test things out. So I think this is only going to be a good thing for wrestling. I hate to say it, Eric, because I know my optimism runs off on you, but I'm feeling pretty optimistic. I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good after seeing some of these things. I know you're probably still down in the dumps a little bit about wrestling in the season. Do you have a glass of water?
I'm feeling better about it. I mean, I do.
Is it half full or is it?
You can't see it. You can't tell.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you how much is in it.
You're going to say it's half empty. I know you are.
But no, the other thing that he mentioned, he said, hey, look, this is a different situation for wrestling, but, we've been worrying about skin diseases and things like that for years. So, cleaning mats and making this as hygienic as possible is nothing new to us.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to wrestling, there's a lot of things that wrestling is used to dealing with, and safety protocols and especially skin issues and mat issues have been really the main forefront for wrestling for a very long time. I mean, how many schools have we know that had MRSA outbreak or some type of outbreak where they had to contain it and they canceled a dual meet and then they got things under control. So I mean, yeah, wrestling's not immune to these types of things. So I don't know. I feel pretty optimistic, Eric.
Yep, definitely. I'm feeling better about it, and I am super excited about True Power.
I think it's about that time, Eric. This is what fans have been waiting for, right? They certainly don't want to hear you and I talk about anything non-useful, I guess you could say, and they certainly don't want to look at us. That's for sure. But we do have some pretty big matchups, and we're going to go through 7 tonight. So we went through 3 last week, our 3 inaugural ones. We had some fun last week talking about those 3 matches. So you got to digest those a little bit. Now we're going to hit you with 7 more. And then next week,
we're
going to have 7
holiday
more.
weekend. You can just look over these matchups, start thinking about picks.
Yeah, maybe we need a betting line.
So yeah, plenty of time to digest this along with the Labor Day picnics.
Absolutely, you sure? That's absolutely right. You can be eating hot dogs, hamburgers, while shooting the crap about who's going to win certain matchups at True Power. So without further ado, Eric, let's go into our first matchup that we're going to talk about tonight, and that comes in at 113 pounds, and that's Vinnie Kilkiri from Latrobe taking on Dalton Perry from Central Mountain. This one, I think, is going to be pretty epic because these guys have some history. These guys aren't they've certainly have seen each other quite a bit, and Kilkiri is just a fun story. He's a great story in my opinion. Kid didn't win a lot of tournaments last year, but he won the state tournament. He didn't win regionals.
He won the big one.
He didn't win his section. He didn't win Powerade. He didn't win Westmoreland County. But he won the one that counted, and just his run to the state title was so impressive, coming in and knocking off big name guys, K-Sack, Jacob Van D in the finals, and in dominating fashion. Not dominating, but just really good fashion, getting a couple big wins. Just a lot of excitement around him, kind of like the way that he fought. He really fought through to get to the top of the podium. So I'm really looking forward to this matchup, Eric.
Jeff, when you're doing your rankings, and you've obviously been doing it a lot longer than me, how do you assess that? I mean, obviously, we look at state medals, and, that's the be-all, end-all in our sport, is you want to be your best at the end of the season. How do you look at a guy like Vinnie who, as you said, for much of the year, he was at the top of your rankings anywhere because, he wasn't winning those tournaments. He was losing to other guys, but then he puts together that run. Do you say, okay, this is a guy that took that step forward at the end of the season, or do you say, okay, he's still got to prove some stuff to us?
Well, I mean, he certainly had a nice run momentum wise. I think really it came back to when he beat Briar Priest at the regional tournament. That was really when I saw a difference in him and the way he was wrestling, because he wrestled tough at Powerade. He had some good matches at Powerade, but he just wasn't finishing out matches. He wasn't getting to his offense. He wasn't, because Vinny's a very particular wrestler. The way he competes, he has a very unique style, and because he's much shorter and he's a little bit, very much like Luke Pletcher, kind of short and stocky in that sense a little bit. I think you looked at Vinny, and it was just like you knew it wasn't going to stop. He was just like a runaway train. You knew that he wasn't going to slow down. Yeah, he still has stuff to prove. Absolutely, he does. He still, yes, he won the big dance, but he was good and really, really good for 2 weeks, right? He was very solid for 2 weeks straight, where his conditioning, his mental state, I don't know what he did, but whatever he did, and told himself, it worked. So but he's,
and that was before the teddy bear training.
That was
post teddy bear training.
That was
Kilkiri.
That was pre teddy bear training. Yes, that was before he started doing leg laces on teddy bears. But Vinny's run was just incredible, and I think this is a good time for him to show, because he avenged some losses that and that Whippeal in his section really was just stacked. I had mentioned Briar Priest. You had Chad Ozias, you had Troy Homan from Penn Trafford. You had all these guys that were just constantly banging heads, and Mac Church was one of them. Mac Church, he lost to in the Southwest Regional Finals, and ends up not having to see him in the state tournament. So, Vinny is a guy who I'm really excited to see how he has been over the summer, because this match is going to be at 113. Now, Dalton, my gosh, Dyson is a lot closer to these guys than I am. And, I knew Dalton had placed at the state tournament several times because he was in the finals a couple times. He's a 7-time PJW state medalist. That's a whole heck of a lot of medals to have around your neck coming into high school. And 7-time PJW state medalist, 3-time finalist, and he won his first state championship this past year. And really, he's just been dynamite in doing it. You look at some of the brackets that he's been a part of, they've been really stacked. And in fact, these two wrestled 2 years ago at 82 pounds, or almost 2 years ago, in the 2019 PJW State Championship at 82 pounds. In the semifinals of that state tournament, Perry actually beat Vinnie Kilkiri 4-3 in that match. Kilkiri would go back to take 5th. Perry went on to take 2nd, losing to Nick O'Neill. So, I love this matchup. Two guys that are young, promising, rising stars in Pennsylvania. I love it.
Well, and it's always great to see a freshman, kind of get our first look at him against some of the competition that he's going to be seeing during the season. We've kind of seen some stuff out of the PJWs, and as you said, he has wrestled Vinny before, but this is going to be a fun one to see, because I know you're always looking at the freshmen and, okay, who's going to be the top guys that we're looking at as the top incoming freshmen, and obviously Dalton is going to be one of those guys high at the top, but this will really give us a good idea of where he stands in that pecking order.
Oh, for sure. The top incoming freshman, the surge for the last 2 years has served as a really good barometer for the top incoming freshman report. Obviously without having that, it's tough. Eric Gibson, Jared Kessler, their freshman year came in and Jared Kessler went from a guy who was top 30 in my opinion to top 10 after winning the surge tournament coming into his freshman year, beating multiple state medalists en route to that. So it sucks that we can't have the surge to have a lot of these guys come in and show what they're worth. But I am happy that we're going to be able to see Dalton go up against a big name kid like Vinnie Kilkiri. You take down a state champion in October, you're probably going to be pretty high up on the top incoming freshman report. So certainly looking forward to this matchup. It's going to be a lot of fun here at 113 pounds, Eric. But we have another one. In fact, we have a couple more that we're going to talk about here tonight, Eric. And the next one that we're going to talk about is at 122 pounds. This one is going to feature a guy we just mentioned a little bit ago from Waynesburg, and that's Mac Church. Mac Church versus Aiden Lewis. So we got a District 3 representative from Cedar Cliff. Aiden Lewis was a state runner-up last year, made it to the state finals, lost to Ethan Burnett from Hempfield in the state finals. Really good performance by Aiden. Mac Church, on the other hand, had that, he came in as a guy who was gunning for a state title. Very high, and we talked about the top incoming freshman. He was high up on that top incoming freshman report. Church, he really did it all last year, right? He won the Powerade. In fact, he won the Powerade in dominating fashion when he did win it. He was just amazing to start the season. He was a runner-up at Ironman. Very good performance at Ironman. Was fifth at the Beast of the East. Again, Powerade champion. Won the Southwest Regional. Beat Vinnie Kilkiri. Pinned him, actually. But he lost in ultimate tiebreaker to a Central Dauphin kid. I have to say I was tough to watch that match because I obviously have a little bias towards Central Dauphin. But Matt Repos beat him in the quarterfinals. And it was on a,
and that was probably
caution.
That was probably the most controversial match, or one of the top most controversial matches of the entire PIAA tournament last year.
Unfortunately, we had a few.
Yeah, I was going to say top, but then I remembered, well, that's not completely true because there were a couple others.
There was a couple others, a couple in double A, I know for sure, and there was definitely a couple, but Mac lost on a caution point, and that was an ultimate tiebreaker. So he came back, though, to take third. He beat Tyler Kasak, who he had lost to at the state dual team tournament. So that was a really big win for him. And then he came back and beat Matt Repos to take third. So Mac is you can't take away everything that he did during the season. I mean, if you would ask me in December who has a better chance of winning a state title, Mac Church or Vinnie Kilkiri at 106 pounds, 9 times out of 10, I'm saying Mac Church because he was just nationally ranked guy. You don't take second at the Ironman and not have to be considered as a champion contender for a state title in Pennsylvania. So, but this was an interesting match because Aiden Lewis was 13-pounder last year. Mac Church was a 6-pounder. But Mac, I think, has grown into it, and you can see in the image there, Mac looks like he's filled out a little bit. Aiden Lewis is going to Bucknell. Now, he's a 2-time state medalist. He's made it to the state tournament all 3 times, was 4th as a sophomore, runner-up as a junior. But he really elevated himself up his junior year, I think, having been to the state tournament before. I think this was a big step for him, Eric.
Yeah, and coming up in weight a little bit, obviously a big thing if you're heading off to college in a year, you want to be growing into that 125. So 122 still a little bit light there, but I'm sure he'll be continuing to try to put on some muscle. And by the time he gets to college, maybe put some more time in the weight room and grow into that 125 spot. So moving up there in weight class, I think, is important for Aiden to get to this level, to that weight class and be ready for college because obviously you don't want to be weighing in at 125 in college. You want to be coming down to that a little bit, so that you're big enough for the weight class.
You know what's interesting when I'm researching this matchup is they both had really tough regionals. Aiden Lewis didn't win his region. He was in a bracket with Mason Leapart from Dover and also Ben Mon from Cumber Valley. If you remember that match, Ethan Burnick upset Ben Mon. I really wouldn't call it a too big of an upset, but it was an upset nonetheless. And Aiden Lewis was 3rd at that weight. So both those guys were just banging heads with some really high-end talent throughout their postseason, which makes it even more exciting to see these guys. I think their styles match up really well. I think they're both going to be fun to watch on their feet, and I'm excited to see this one roll out, Eric.
Yeah, it should definitely be a good one. Got so many good matches on this card, and moving over to the girls side, we've got a couple girls matches on there, going freestyle there, and one of the top girls in PA, not just now, but I think probably in PA history, wouldn't you say? In Montana DeLauder, she's got 67 wins against boys. I mean,
I
I don't know of any other girl that has that many. Do you?
I can't. I mean, definitely not in recent memory, which I don't think any. No, I almost 99.9% positive that she has the most wins of any girl in Pennsylvania wrestling history. 67 wins and 43 losses against boys. I mean, it's
Yeah, that
incredible.
just doesn't happen.
It really doesn't. It really doesn't happen. The thing she was been able to do against boys is it doesn't stop there. The thing she's been able to do against girls is just incredible as well. Two-time my house PA girls state champion and a Fargo national champion, which was the biggest. That's what really etched her name in Pennsylvania wrestling history, is because you don't, especially unfortunately, Pennsylvania girls. We've done well on the boys' side of things, but really in the girls, we're playing catch up to states like California, Texas, Washington, Hawaii. So it's nice to see these girls going out and having success. But Montana, she's incredible. I mean, she's probably one of the best girls ever to come out of Pennsylvania. Would you agree, Eric?
Yeah, I think so. And she's a leader for girls in Pennsylvania. She's somebody that these girls can look up to, and this is one of the people that we can point to and say, hey, this is why we need PIAA to recognize girls wrestling, so that we can have more Montana Delauders that are going out and winning Fargo titles and getting to college teams and contending for national titles there. So this is awesome. I think Montana Delauder is a great representative of Pennsylvania wrestling, and she's going to have a good matchup here with, I believe it's Alana. I apologize if it's Elena. I'm not sure. Alana or Elena Barbario, who is from Hatboro Horsham.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a tough when you look at these matchups. It's tough to try to pick and choose the matchups with the girls, because we don't see them nearly as much, right? We don't necessarily get to see them a whole lot and have some common opponents. So this one was a good one, because she took fourth in the state last year, but a deeper weight class, I would say. Montana just kind of dominated her way through. And a lot of the girls that placed in the state tournament last year, the girls' state tournament, a lot of them were seniors. So it's tough to really get the ones that are coming in to whether they're juniors or seniors this year. And Montana will be a senior this year. Man, I would love to see her get 100 wins. Could you imagine that, her getting 100 wins, Eric? That would just be,
that would be incredible.
that would be amazing, right?
And that's again, that's for me, that we look at that and say, hey, PIAA, you've got a girl winning 100 against the boys, but we really need to give them their own competition, so that we get girls of this level, and they have role models to look at and say, hey, we want to do this without having to wrestle against boys. We want to be able to compete against our own peers and go out there and show what we can do.
Yeah, I agree. And Montana has just been, like you said, a pioneer of girls wrestling in Pennsylvania, wrestling for Gettysburg. The whole Gettysburg program down there with Coach Haynes has really grown the women's movement, the girls' movement in Pennsylvania. So we are very fortunate to have two high-quality girls' matches to go down at True Power. Eric, let's go on to the next matchup that we're going to be talking about, and that is another big one. And why I say that is because we got a guy who not only is a well-known, in wrestling, he's also kind of famous, right? He's a guy. He's won awards. He's already done so much, and that's Jude Swisher. He'll be taking on Kyle Hauserman from Council Rock North. This is at 132 pounds. Jude Swisher was fourth in fact, both of these wrestlers were fourth in the state last year. Kyle Hauserman was fourth at 120. Jude was fourth at 126 pounds. Kyle is going to be a senior. Jude is going to be a junior. I love this matchup because neither one of them are afraid of competition. Jude loves to battle, and so does Kyle. Kyle won the Powerade last year at 120 pounds. Really looked good. Had a good season. Won the regional tournament. twice in his career, but he wasn't able to get to the finals where I know he probably wanted to be. And you look at where he's going to UPenn, so clearly he's pretty bright too. Jude, on the other hand, is one of the best juniors in the state right now, having been fourth in the state last year. Trains out of the M2 Training Center. I'm really excited for this one. He's not only good at podcasting with the home mat advantage, Jude Swisher is, but he can also scrap. This one should be a good one, Eric.
Yeah, as you said, Jude, great kid. We've talked to him before. It's funny. I actually, his dad and I wrestled in a couple tournaments. His dad was from Maryland, but close enough to the border where I grew up that we were in some of the same tournaments. I think he was a weight class heavier than me or something. But so I got to catch up with him last year at the regional finals where Jude was wrestling and won a title. And I know Jude was really disappointed last year that his state tournament didn't go better than it did. And this year was able to go out and get that state medal, and we'll look to continue to build on that performance. And as you said, Kyle Hauserman, really a known commodity, headed to UPenn. So great wrestler, great student athlete, and should be a really entertaining match here, I think.
Yeah, Jude took major steps. He was at State College and then he went to Bellefonte, and he was a qualifier his freshman year. But he really took jumps up into his sophomore year. I was very impressed with the way he was, and he didn't cut any weight. He loved to wrestle and not really cut much weight because he probably could have been a 20-pounder without really much of an issue, but he was able to wrestle at 126 without any problem. I'm excited for this one just because, like I said, both these guys like to scrap. It's going to be a good match, Eric. I'm looking forward to this one at 132 pounds. Should we go on to our next one, Eric?
Yeah, 138. How about this one?
138
is going to be awesome.
Yeah, so 138 is a lot of fun. A teammate of Jude's, not a Bellefonte teammate, but a M2 Training Center teammate of him, and a guy who we know has been around for quite a while, versus a guy who recently just committed to a major Division I college, and that's Finn Solomon. And let's get that graphic up there now. Levi Haynes from Biglerville, a two-time state runner-up. He's been in the finals twice. He's going to be taking on Finn Solomon of Franklin Regional, a guy who's not immune to the state finals either. He was a state finals 2 years ago as a freshman. Levi Haynes, on the other hand, was banged up in the beginning of the year this past season, wrestled down at 120, was out of the lineup for a little bit. Comes back, wrestles at 126 pounds, loses to Ryan Crookram twice, loses to him in the regional finals, and then loses to him in the state finals. But en route to that finals, he beat returning state champion Jackson Arrington in the semifinals at 126 pounds. Finn, on the other hand, a different trajectory because he was a state finalist as a freshman at 113 pounds against Alejandro Herrera. However, as a sophomore, he didn't make it to the state tournament. And this is kind of wild how it happened. He beat Curtis Phipps in the section finals. Okay, Curtis Phipps would go on to win a state title. Lost to him, got pinned by him in the regional tournament. After that match, he drops down, loses to Zach Wright from Hampton, and does not qualify for state. So you have a returning state runner-up not making it to the state tournament. So he's itching for some competition, Eric.
Yeah, I'm betting that he has been just chomping at the bit, ready to get back out there. After that, last season obviously didn't end the way that he expected or hoped that it would. So to get out there and to get a chance to match up with a guy like Levi Haynes, I think this is, we've got so many good matches on this card, but this is one of my favorites as I'm looking at it. That these two, this one really jumps off the page at me.
Yeah, and I agree. And Finn just recently committed to NC State. Obviously, they're very high on him, despite the fact that he didn't make it to the state tournament. We know what he's capable of. He's got wins over. They both wrestled Jackson Arrington last year. One was a 5-0, one was a 5-2. So both these guys have comparable results, and I think both these guys are just again scrappers, brawlers. They fight. They won't give an inch. So this is going to be a lot of fun. We know Levi Haynes and what he's capable of. You don't make it to the 2 state finals in 2 years without having some quality to you. And again, an M2 training center versus a Young Guns club here. So some good matchups here from guys throughout the state. I'm looking forward to it, Eric.
Yeah, and another fun one coming up at 155. A little bigger than we're used to seeing some of these guys.
Yeah, I would say he Ali's definitely getting a little bit bigger, and in fact, to talk to him, I want to bring him on the show here. We're gonna have Ali on as a guest here in a couple of seconds, and I'm looking forward to this one for multiple reasons, but primarily because they're both really grew a lot from last year. Ali, do we have you on?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can see you. Ali, how's it going,
All right.
brother?
I'm pretty good. How about you guys?
Very good.
Good, good. Great to see you, Ali.
Good to see you too, guys.
So, Ali, talk to us a little bit about this offseason because, you certainly have hit a growth spurt. You were just a mini wrestler in 8th and 9th grade. You were, had no trouble really making a 106, and all of a sudden you're pushing the scales at 160 pounds. What have you been doing? What have you been eating?
I don't know. I honestly haven't been eating that much. I've been eating a lot because I usually do eat a lot, but I've been just working out pretty much 6 times a week for the past probably since quarantine started. And I don't know. It's just something that because I have a friend, Jason Geyer.
Sure. Yep.
He was
at New York State University,
on our team
right?
from when I was a sophomore. He was, I think, our 132 pounder. Yeah, he's kind of a gym rat, and I think he kind of turned me into a gym rat. So I mean, I've been just kind of pumping into the gym, and but I've been wrestling pretty much like 3-4 times a week too. So I've just been grinding since basically quarantine started.
Ali, talk a little bit about, the True Power. You're going to wrestle Rocco Welsh, a guy who you're familiar with. In fact, you wrestled him at the Surge in the Surge finals a couple years ago. And, that was obviously at a much different weight and a much different time. You both are two different wrestlers right now. But, what do you think of the matchup with Rocco? Because he was a 126 pounder last year. You were a 132 pounder last year, and now you're both wrestling at 155. So, how intriguing is that for you, just for a matchup wise?
I think it's interesting. I think it turns some heads. It just brings people apart. Like people look at it, it's like, oh wow, they're wrestling 155 pounds. Like these guys get fat or something. Probably, maybe a little bit, but not as much. But yeah, I'm just excited, because like the matchup last time was that was a while ago, and we're big bodies now, so we're just gonna see how the styles collide.
Ali, talk a little bit about last year. You made that jump up from 113 to 132. You had some struggles with some tough matches, some guys that were more accustomed to maybe wrestling at that higher weight. What did you learn from last year? Because you came back, you were a 2-time state champion, you took 4th last year, but I don't feel like you're disappointed. I feel like that was you kind of brushed it off and said, hey, let's move on to the next chapter. How have you adapted to wrestling at a higher weight, and really how have you developed?
Well, I kind of just looked at it as like I feel like I knew that I was gonna grow from I feel like from my sophomore year. I just knew because I didn't want to honestly be low that low anymore. And once I started getting to those bigger weight classes, I felt the actual body strength of it. It's a different feeling, So that's kind of why I kind of devoted some time into the gym, do some some functional stuff, some power, some strong stuff, some different stuff. Just trying to get everything stronger, and I feel like that's what's going to help me most. And I just want to get better every day. So that's what I've been doing the whole time. So, I mean, I would expect a better version of myself this year for sure.
Ali, you've obviously, as you said, been putting a lot of time in the gym during the quarantine and the whole process since then. How exciting is it to get back on the mat and get some real competitive matches in?
I mean, that's the whole reason why I've been doing this. I mean, I want to wrestle some of the toughest guys in the country. Just trying to show that I'm still here. Like after all this stuff and quarantine and stuff, I can still bring it. But I'm just excited for everything. So, yeah.
Well, Ali, we really appreciate you taking the time out to. You probably took a break from working out. Really, you're probably in the gym, right?
I worked out today.
I know you. I'm sure you did, right? I appreciate you coming on and talking a little bit about what you've been up to and really talking about True Power and the matchup with Rocco Welsh. We look forward to seeing you in person and actually getting to see you compete. It's going to be a ton of fun. We're happy you're a part of it. So and we again appreciate you taking the time out tonight. Okay.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, see you, Allie.
See you,
See
Allie.
you guys.
See ya. And Eric, I didn't have the graphic up, but I gotta put that up there because Rocco Welsh is holding the surge hammer that he won.
Yeah, I know. I like that.
That's pretty...
bonus points to Rocco for getting the surge hammer.
Ali could have held 2 surge hammers up because he's a 2-time surge champion. And as we mentioned before, Rocco and Ali actually wrestled in the finals of Surge 2 years ago. This was actually at the very first Surge tournament in 2018. It was at 113 pounds, and Rocco Welsh was an 8th grader. Ali was just coming off a state title, and he beat Rocco 9-0 in that match. I don't think it's going to be a 9-0 match either way this time. I think these guys are much different wrestlers. I think this is going to be a whole heck of a lot of fun because Ali's just great, and Rocco just he's a brawler. He just loves to fight and scrap, and we've seen it last year. He was a freshman last year, made it to the state finals, losing to Curtis Phipps, but this one's gonna be a good one, Eric.
Yeah, and as we've talked a lot about the jump and weight for both guys, and it's interesting to see how that weight affects them, how they perform at that level. It's different whenever you put on 30 pounds in an off season. You're gonna have different things that work for you that maybe, or things that didn't work for or did work for you before maybe won't work as well now. Up in weight, facing stronger guys, things like that. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out and how their styles may have changed with the jump in weight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think when we were looking at True Power, and that was the hardest thing about putting together True Power was, normally we have guys' weights basically throughout the off season because they're competing in Disney duels and Fargo and any type of event after the season, and we haven't had that. So when we were starting to solicit interest to True Power, I was not expecting to hear either one of these two say that they were weighing in around 160 and they could make 155. I mean, just never really expected it, but I was like, hey, this is a 2 surge participants, 2 guys that we really are pretty high on, and I'm really looking forward to this match, a different type of match.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, it seems like every match we talk about, we say, man, this one's going to be a really good one. And honestly, we think that, we're not just blowing smoke here. And I think 182 is going to be a really good matchup as well.
Yeah, and Eric, before we go into the 182-pound match, we're going to go over to a quick commercial break for the Tactical Mind and Nick Fuller. Go ahead. We'll be right back.
This is the Tactical Mind, and I work with athletes in the field of sports psychology as a cognitive performance coach. Within 5 minutes of talking to a parent, they make the connection right away that this would be great for my kid to have when they're in college, when they're just going through the ups and downs of high school. Who wouldn't benefit from having more self-awareness? Who wouldn't benefit from having the ability to self-regulate our emotions and our counterproductive thoughts? Who wouldn't benefit from having more optimism, not just on the field, but in life?
And if you go to the tacticalmindllc.com and you use the promo code POWER, you can get your first consultation for half off. And that is the tacticalmindllc.com. Go in and check Nick Fuller out and get your mind ready for the season because it's happening. So get your mind ready, get it in shape just like you would your body. You got to work your mind just as you would working out your body. Eric, we got one more match to preview tonight, although we have 7 more next week that we're going to talk about. Looking forward to all of these matches. Let's go up to 182 pounds, and this one is going to feature none other than Max Stout of Mount Lebanon and Jack Waymeyer of Malvern Prep. Now, everyone should know the name Max Stout, right? The Stout family name is sort of well known across the state. You've got a 4-time All-American as your father. You have a couple, brothers as state champions with Kellen and Luke, and then of course there's Mac, and Mac was a state runner-up last year. I love the way Mac's progression has been since coming into high school. He was a regional qualifier as a freshman, makes it to his first state title or state championship as a sophomore, and makes it to the finals. Now, think about his season last year. He had 3 losses last year. All of them were to state champions. 2 times the Lenny Pinto, 1 time the Tyler Stoltzfus of St. Joseph's Academy. So he hasn't had any bad losses, right? He's a guy who just continues to bring it. And in fact, he beat a state champion in order to get to the finals. He beat Trey Kibe of Mifflin County in the state semifinals in a very tight ultimate tiebreaker match, 2-1. Do you remember that match with Lenny Pinto in the finals, Eric? That was, in my opinion, the best match of the finals.
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing cheap. Not that there's ever anything cheap about being a PIAA runner-up. But I mean, his path, as you said, the season that he had and the state tournament that he had, great performance by him. And yeah, I mean, Lenny Pinto, we've talked about it before. I mean, he's one of the top guys pound for pound in the state, and Max Stout was right there with him.
Yeah, I mean, Mac was lost in overtime to him at the Powerade tournament, and that match, I forget what it was at the time of the fall, but it was either 9-7 or it was a back and forth. They each had each other on the backs, and it was just a crazy intense match. And you look at how deep that bracket was. I mean, you had Trey Kibe, you had Lenny, you had Mac, you had Tyler Reinhardt from Gettysburg. You had Angel Garcia. You had so many tough kids there that it was known as probably the deepest weight class in the state tournament. So, no shame in finishing second to that bracket. Jack Waymeyer, on the other hand, a little different of a story because he didn't win a whole lot last year. Well, look at Malvern Prep's schedule, and it's you can see why. He did win a big tournament though, and that was the Surge, Eric, and he won the Surge, coming in and beat Jack Bloomer at 160 pounds in the finals. Jack is a guy who placed 6th at the Ironman. He was 5th at the Escape to Rock, and he was 6th at National Preps. That was an improvement of 8th at National Preps the year prior. So he hasn't had that breakout, standout performance quite yet, I don't think. You look at a teammate like Dalton Harkins last year who really burst onto the scene as a senior, knocking off some high-level guys, even though he's always been in the conversation. Jack, I think, really elevated his game when he won the Surge, put his name at least on our map, and then really started competing at high levels for Malvern Prep. Look at the tournaments they went to: Beast of the East, Ironman, Powerade, National Press, Escape the Rock. I mean, holy heck, that's a whole lot of tough guys.
You're not going to be intimidated. You're not going to be intimidated by a big match whenever you're going to competitions like that and getting on the podium there. I mean, it's not like he's going there and going 0-2. I mean, he's getting the best competition in the country on a regular basis. And, as you said, we've seen this out of the Malvern Prep guys, that they've just been phenomenal and really taken those big jumps forward. So it'll be interesting to see how Waymeyer, who was really, really good last year, what are we going to see out of him this season?
Yeah, and it's interesting because both the guys are coming up a little bit in weight, as you mentioned. Mac is coming up from 170, and Jack is coming up from 160. So Jack also recently gave a verbal to Columbia. So he's again pretty smart kid. I think having that commitment under his belt, probably more focused on getting stronger, bigger. Probably training with Nick Feldman a little bit and Andrew Connolly and those guys. And I know those Malvern Prep kids are, like you said, he ain't afraid of anything. I think he's coming out to scrap. I think this is a chance for him to show like, hey, I deserve to be in the conversation as one of the top guys in the nation. Mac is the guy here who I would say is more favored, but I still think it's going to be a very good match, and I'm really looking forward to seeing some of these big boys scrap, because they don't wrestle like your bigger bigger guys. These guys are going to come out and they're going to put some points on the board, Eric.
Yeah, they're going to be active. Of course, we still don't know. Hopefully, I think when we're looking at this level, I don't expect anybody to come out of here and not be in shape. Because these guys are training year round, even with everything that they've gone through over the past couple months. But that's going to be an interesting part of it, because early season or preseason matches are always, you're kind of looking at that. So it'll be interesting to see how these guys, what their gas tanks are like whenever they're coming into an event like this, having some of them not wrestled too much competitively in almost 6 months.
Yeah, and you look at just the matches that we talked about tonight, some super high level matches. What I like about this, Eric, is it's kids from across the state. District 3, you got some District 1 kids, you got District 6, you got guys from across the state. I'm looking forward to see these guys that maybe not necessarily always bang heads, like Levi Haynes and Finn Solomon. That's an intriguing matchup to me. Not that Allie and Rocco is not, but see. It's we've seen it before. This is going to be at a different weight, but these are some matches I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever I love the double A, triple A dynamic. Whenever you can get that to work out with a couple kids who are at the same weight class range, and ready to go do battle and kind of see how that works out. So that's one of the fun things for me. Or in this case, you get a national preps kid who, you're not necessarily seeing a maxed out too often, taking on him and someone from Malvern prep. So it's great. Like you said, whenever you do have these guys who may not see each other somewhere else. I mean, they may hit somewhere else down the line, but this is a great opportunity to see how that dynamic works out between a national preps kid and a AAA power.
Eric, looking at now we've had 10 matches released, and we are going to be releasing 7 more next week. Remember, when is True Power, Eric?
It is sometime in October, right?
Okay. What day is that in October, Eric?
It is October.
It's got the same. It's the same number of matches.
Oh yeah, that's right. 17.
Are you being smart with me?
I gotta mess with you a little bit, Jeff. I've been nice to you the whole show.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was a great show. You've been nice to me.
Well, I can't make it through a whole hour without messing with you a little bit, Jeff.
You're right. Especially after watching the Willie trials. We've got October 17th, 17 matches live on Rockfin to Rockfin subscribers. So this is what I'm saying. If you're interested in watching some wrestling, you should probably sign up now, because you're going to watch the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club event on September 19th, and in less than a month you're going to watch True Power, and then after that you're going to watch some more matches being streamed on Rockfin through PA Power, with Scott Green and the Fall Fury out in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. So more details on that to come. However, we've got a lot of good wrestling coming up here on Rockfin, Eric.
Yeah, so much is coming up here. This is going to be something that's well worth the subscription price if you're a wrestling fan and you want to see the top guys, especially in Pennsylvania. But there are other channels that you can watch as well, and you can get different kinds of content. I mean, the subscription price is really not that much whenever you look at all the different things you can get out of a Rockfin subscription.
So before we go, we got a 1 minute on the clock here, Eric. Did you watch the Willie trials? Did you see Karen from
I tried to. I watched definitely parts of them. I couldn't see the whole thing, but man, it was like a Saturday Night Live skit at times. Like you couldn't make up some of the stuff that you were seeing.
And I know you got to run, but I got to say, my wife, who gives zero about wrestling, in fact, doesn't really like wrestling just because it takes me away from her, and really has no interest in wrestling whatsoever, watched the entire hearing with me, whatever day that was last week or this week. literally was intrigued the entire time. She was like the whole dynamics. She was just like, oh man, this lawyer should have done this, and it was just crazy. Like she was into it. I'm like, what?
Yeah, my wife was the same way. She's
crazy.
like, we got to get it on the big screen next time and invite
Right.
people over to watch it. Like I might take vacation to watch the Willie Flow trial.
My wife is big into like reality television, and that was kind of like reality TV, and it was just incredible how it was portrayed. And oh, man, Willie Saylor is he's the man. That's all I gotta say. Him and
Keep
Martin.
fighting the good fight, Willie.
Absolutely. I don't want to get sued, so I'm not gonna say anything else. But we're fighting for you, and man, we can't wait to get back to some good wrestling. Eric, we appreciate your time here tonight. As always, tune into PAPowerWrestling.com. Check us out on Rockfin, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you name it, we've got it. And until next week, 7 more matches, Eric. 7 more matches next week.
Can't wait.
All right, Eric. Have a good night. See ya.